Alright, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the men whom I've learned this truth from, the apostles, bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. And I would also like to say Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal, back with another lesson. And this lesson that I'm going to be getting into today is going to be a lesson going into counsel, right? And counsel is something that is very important. Matter of fact, let me get the definition of the word counsel. And this is something that we touched on at camp, you know. So this is counsel in the Google definition. It says advice, especially given formally. Some of the similar words: advice, guidance, direction, instruction, information, enlightenment, recommendations, suggestions, hints, tips, pointers, ideas, guidelines, opinions, views, facts, warnings, right? Admonition. So, right, dealing with yourself as an individual, in your day-to-day life, yeah, it's good to have counsel from those that are around you, right? Uh, Good to have advice on particular things because you might not know, uh, you might not be in a particular field or situation. You might have not been in that situation, but you could ask guidance from somebody else, right? And for us dealing in the truth, we got the brothers that are over us, brothers that have different experiences, different knowledge in different fields or work fields, right? And you can go for them for advice. That's what the brothers are for. And the brothers is a good place to go for counsel because they are operating under the fear of Yahweh Shemashai, right? They're not gonna basically seek their own motives um, by giving you a counsel. They're gonna give you the counsel as if um, they were in your position, to the best of their ability. They're not gonna finesse you, to simplify it, right? Because dealing with uh, the ancient world, right? You had kings, and kings had counselors around them, right? And something that I'm gonna pull up briefly, is the Game of Thrones. When you take a look at the Game of Thrones, the concept of counselors was important. The small council. It was something that was very important, and depending on the sort of king you might have been, right? That council might actually be what's that small council might actually be what's ruling your kingdom. Depending on what type of king you were, that gave pretty much liberty to your counselors to do whatever, or you could be strict and be in control of that council, right? Yeah, but the concept of counselor or having counselors is important, and it was important in the ancient world, but it wasn't always to the benefit of the king or the ruler, because like I'm gonna go into, they had their own motives, man. The counselors had their own motives. They had their own uh, plots that they were planning, whether it might be to overrule the king, to take or to gain the power of the king, or to overthrow the rulership, for whatever case, and that's the lesson I'm gonna get into. So matter of fact, let me start in the book of Proverbs 15 and verse 22. It says, without counsel purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established, right? And it's important to have counsel. Why? Because you have more than one opinion on something, and you basically gauge what the best uh, approach is. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a quick example. I don't know if it's gonna be quick, but this is 2 Samuel 17 and verse 1. It says, Moreover, Antipas said unto Absalom, Let me now choose out 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue after David this night, and I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people that are with him shall flee. And I will smite the king only, and I will bring back all the people unto thee, and the men whom thou seekest is as if all returned. So all the people shall be in peace. And the saying pleased Absalom well, and that was counsel. He gave Absalom counsel, advice on what should be done on the situation, right? And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel, right? So they were in the council. Verse 5. Then said Absalom, Call now Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear likewise what he saith. Right, so Absalom said, okay, that I like what you said, I like the advice you gave me, but let me hear another opinion and see what he has to say. Right, so he was getting more than one outlook or perspective on the situation to basically gauge out what the best approach would be, or is, right? And that's good to do. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's wisdom, actually. That's wise, Verse 6, it says, When Hushai was come to Absalom, Absalom spake unto him, saying, Antipas had spoken after this manner. Shall we do after his saying? If not, speak thou. And Hushai said unto Absalom, The counsel that Antipas had given is not good at this time. For Hushai, thou knowest thy father and his men, that they be mighty men, and they be chafed in their minds, as a bear robbed of her whelps in the field. And thy father is a man of war, and will not lodge with the people. Behold, he is hid now in some pit, or in some other place. And it will come to pass, when some of them be overthrown at the first, that whosoever heareth it will say, There is slaughter among the people that follow Absalom. And he also that is valiant, whose heart is as the heart of a lion, shall utterly melt. For all Israel knoweth that thy father is a mighty man, and they which be with him are valiant men. Therefore I counsel that all Israel be generally gathered unto thee, from Dan even to Beersheba, as the sand that is by the sea for multitude, and that thou go to Shalakia, and that thou go to battle in thine own person. So shall we come upon him in some place where he shall be found, and we will light upon him as the dew falleth on the ground, and of him and of all the men that are with him there shall not be left so much as one. Right. Verse 13, Moreover, if he be gone into a city, then shall all Israel bring ropes to that city, and we will draw it into the river until there be not one small stone found there. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, The counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Antipas. Right, so they gauged which counsel would best suit their situation after getting more than one advice on the situation. Right, and then they decided to go with Hushai. They thought that his counsel sounded better. But guess what? There's a reason that it sounded better to them. The Lord was in control of that situation. The Lord had other plans, right? Because it says, For Yahweh had appointed to defeat the good counsel of Antiphal, to the intent that Yahweh might bring evil upon Absalom. Right, so the Lord made Hushai's counsel sound better to Absalom and the men that were around him, for the sole purpose of basically bringing evil upon um Absalom, man. But Anthopol's counsel was actually the right one, was the better thing to do. But the Lord made Hushai's one sound better, you know, and that's why it's good to ask the Lord for counsel. Ultimately, pray to Yahweh Bashim and help and to ask for His counsel to stand. What He deems better, even though you get counsel from somebody else. If that makes sense, what I just explained. So let me get. Let me get this real quick. This is Proverbs 27 and verse 9. It says, "Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart, so doeth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel." Right. And what that basically means, that, hearty counsel of a friend that really cares about you is sweet, because he's gonna give you advice based off. It's gonna be pure. The intent is gonna be pure, right? He's not gonna seek an ulterior motive, man. Right? But the counsel he's gonna give you is gonna be pure. It's gonna be basically to your benefit. He's gonna want to make sure that you benefit from the situation. Right? That's that hearty counsel. That's what makes it sweet, taste good. Right. So let's go to the Game of Thrones. I asked Google. I asked it to pull up Game of Thrones council members and their motives, because when you take a look at Game of Thrones, it's a lot of twists and turns, and there's a lot that goes on. Which is a good show to watch, right? But something that stood out to me and pretty much inspired this lesson, as well as the mention I can of counselors. It's a lot.